It takes a lot of courage to face the fact that one needs to live in a dementia unit, and indeed a lot of strength to be able to keep that stability on admission into a dementia facility, because often what happens is that the person's stress level and cortisol spikes. They get so distressed and so disturbed that it can take months to settle down, and some people indeed don't recover from it. But I've witnessed 2 occasions where dementia residents came into the facility, not an emotional ripple. They managed to rise above it, stay above it. Incredible. First example was a former army officer, came in, head held high. The only thing he said was, well, it's the last post. That's it. He never said anything about it after that. It's the last post, and he went about his business just the same as he always had done in his life, greeting everyone, being courteous, being kind, sorting out problems where he could, and still it was the last post. And actually, one of the disturbed dementia residents who definitely did not get his cortisol under control, they were actually at the same dining table. And this particular day, he was extremely distressed, and he called out, I'm going to die, you know. And this gentleman said, well, mate, it comes to all of us. This is the last post. Get used to it. And the man settled down incredibly just with that, just a cool, sober, practical voice, you know, male voice. And that was exactly what the man needed to cool down and calm down. And that man didn't actually do very well, but certainly the army officer did. The second example that I also witnessed was from a female. Came into the unit, pearls, lipstick, looking the part, and former school teacher. And she said on entering, well, I don't have dementia. That was the end of that. She never mentioned it again either. Set up a room. She had all her magazines, quizzes, crosswords, piano, accordion, artwork, everything arranged. And she led a good life from that point on. But there's a second part to that story which was quite interesting. So she just continued her business as if at home, reading flat out, conversing with everyone, having a nice time. Never, ever admitting that she had dementia, though she had very poor direction orientation and could never find her room, albeit at the end of the corridor. So it was difficult to find, but still, 2 years later, still didn't know where it was, needed help every time. But this particular day, I decided to have a workshop to introduce the new male dementia residents. This was quite an unusual situation because most of the people in dementia units are elderly women with Alzheimer's, and to have 3 men come into the unit within the week was unusual. And of course, all the women were in a bit of a flutter about this, interested certainly. So I said to this woman, who was very astute, would she like to introduce the 3 men to the group so that we could get to know them? She was happy to do that. Of course, she had a vivacious manner, and prior school teacher was very good at speaking to the group. Now, the first man she introduced was also an interesting character. He had been a former artist and jeweller, and his son came in with him and said, oh, well, Dad doesn't have dementia, he shouldn't be here. And so the father had a similar attitude that he didn't have it either. In public, that was the story. But as he was being introduced by this charming woman who was, you know, very effusive and attentive, and he was telling his life story and all the rest of it, everyone enthralled, all the women enthralled, he said, surprisingly, he said, well, I do have a memory problem. And the same former school teacher who had said all the way through, well, I don't have dementia, said, trusting the situation and all the people about, said, well, yes, I have a memory problem too. And we all do here. Silence. that was really a pivotal moment, because she had the confidence and trust to be able to admit to everyone that she had a memory problem, because this man had initiated it, this, you know, well-endowed gentleman who she respected, new to the unit, had admitted it, so she felt safe to then admit it to everybody else. And from there, the culture changed, actually. It was out in the open that everyone had a memory problem. That's no problem, seemingly. Everyone's looked after. All the present memory problems are catered to. Cares are done, cooking's done, laundry's done, nice facility. So from then on in, it didn't really seem to be much of a problem. And indeed it wasn't, because these people worked hard at their thinking and cognition and their reading and their crosswords to such a degree that they got that quality of thinking and that quality of life, which they otherwise wouldn't have had. But it takes courage to keep stable and settled and not let your stress levels spike through the roof in a dementia unit, for sure. You've got to access and harness that willpower, strength and internal, you have to have the willingness and access that internal willpower, which takes courage, to be able to cope with all the multifarious problems in a dementia unit. But if you can get the team working together and everyone putting forward their best foot, so to speak, best foot forward, everyone trying hard, it really can be a remarkable place to work in, which I found it was remarkable working in the dementia unit, and indeed to live in for these people in the end with their efforts and their courage. So I've written on these topics and more in the 2 books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit, everything you need to know as a relative for someone coming into the facility, and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit, all of what you need to know for problems arising once someone is in a dementia unit and how to cope with it practically. Positive practical techniques, all in the epilogues at the back of both books, and both on Amazon and my website description below. Essential reading, good reading, light reading, but important reading. And the first half is a novel of the day-to-day lives of the dementia residents in both books as well. Now, I am planning to come to Australia. I've noted on TikTok, gosh, it's nearly 50% of the people following are young Australians. Incredible. So I thought, well, Australia's not that far away, and I'm planning to come to Frankston South. It's a place called Baxter, a retreat centre in Melbourne, sometime soon. Just letting you know, and when I've got the details, I'll be putting it in the description below. And everyone's welcome, particularly those of you that have been long-term subscribers or even new subscribers who are interested in this work and interested in helping people, in dementia in whatever way we can. Just educating ourselves actually is a great help. So if you have an interest, more interest in this, it will be a day retreat and you'll be welcome to come to that. In fact, I would love to see you because, after having been so connected online for the last 6 months, it would be fantastic to be able to see some of you. So thank you for your support, mostly that, and your comments and subscriptions, and please pass on the links. Thank you.